Hi guys, it's Brandon here, and we're going to talk about cash on cash return. We're going to talk about measuring risk. I'm going to take you through 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, and 4 bedrooms. We're going to talk about how much profit they typically make, what their average purchase price is. We're going to dive into cash on cash return and really get into the nuts and the bolts of how to make an investment decision in our market, looking comprehensively at all of the different bedroom types. I built a spreadsheet for a client just to cover cash on cash return. It turned into a nice investment analysis topic that talks about tax, talks about risk, talks about appreciation. We talk about annual profits. You name it, it's in this. Ultimately, you cannot exalt one financial metric over the others. You have to have a comprehensive investment analysis that looks at the investment from multiple viewpoints, multiple vantage points. That's how you make a savvy investment decision. Now, you got to watch this video through to the end because I don't want your first investment or your next investment to be a flop. I don't want that for you. I don't want you to get stifled and set back and you can't buy the next property because the financials on the first one you bought were poor. You get frustrated and aggravated. You have to sell it off because you feel like oceanfront condos don't make money, while there are tons of investors out there that I work with all the time and that buy solid investment oceanfront condos and make great profit on them to the tune of even 50 grand in profit on a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom. But anyways, guys, we're going to dive into all that. Be sure to watch the video until the end. Let's get into the video now. You'd like to invest in an oceanfront condo at a beach resort. I'd like to show you how they make profit and break down all their expenses so you understand how they operate, how they appreciate over time, and how to choose the right property manager for your goals. I'd also like to let you know what your HOA includes, how the location best services the tourist booking your unit, how your tourist can navigate the area to the best attractions, restaurants, and local events. I'd like to give you a market report on the resort that you're checking out today so that you make savvy investment decisions. And if you stay tuned until the end, I'll show you my top picks for the units that have appreciated the most in our market or generated the most gross rental income. So no matter if you're a first-time investor, a seasoned professional transitioning into the real estate game, or simply a casual investor who wants to buy an oceanfront condo to rent out while you're not using it for vacation. Whether you've got 15% to pay down because you're financing or you're a cash buyer, if it's an oceanfront condo you're after, you'll be better because I'm aiming to give you a 10 times return on your time for watching this video to the end. All right, guys, so I have a client that shoots me over a text message, and I've sent him an excellent 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom over at Dunes Village. It's $558,000. It's oceanfront. You need to buy it immediately. You investor, you out there, it's one of the best deals on the market. They don't sit on the market long, those oceanfront units at Dunes Village. In my opinion, some of the least amount of risk, tons of profitability, tons of upside. You definitely want to get involved with it. Maybe I should cover those numbers with you, but not yet. So anyways, he sends me a text message and says, "Hi, Brandon, I'm going to pass on this. I will need to see a few properties before jumping into one. Also, I know we talked about the 3-bedroom, 3-bedroom beachfront properties. Is there any way I can get numbers on 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units for perspective? I understand the benefits of a larger property, but I'd like to know what the cash on cash return is on the smaller units, beachfront, so it's apple to apples. Do you have any currently available to look at? Also, if you have any that are in need of repairs, I'd like to see what potential there is for a little sweat equity." Okay, too simple. Now, essentially, I built a chart for him and sent it over to him measuring the cash on cash return and the typical profitability that I see per unit type in our market. Now, in the top left corner of the chart, you'll see the type, the bedroom type. You have 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms. Now, I've put a profit range that we typically see on each type of unit for you. On 1 bedrooms, the low end is $10,000. The high profit is $14,000. Now, profit is what's left over after you pay all of the expenses on the unit for the year. This is annual profits. Now, $10,000 on the low, $14,000 on the high. For a 2-bedroom, $14,000 on the low, $20,000 on the high. For a 3-bedroom, $20,000 on the low, $30,000 on the high. And then for a 4-bedroom, $30,000 on the low, $50,000 on the high. Now that's profit. That is what is left over after all of your annual expenses. Now, I put an average profit in there so that we could calculate cash on cash return and see what's typical or average. Now, for your 1-bedrooms, $12,000. For your 2-bedrooms, $17,000. For your 3-bedrooms, $30,000. For your 4-bedrooms, $40,000. Now, your average purchase price, what I did was I went into the MLS and I pulled everything that's sold on a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, and 4-bedroom for the different types for oceanfront properties, and I pulled these average sales prices. And that's in the last 6 months. So these are current sales prices. For your 1-bedrooms, the average oceanfront is $204,999. For your 2-bedrooms, the average is $369,343. For your 3-bedrooms, $594,000, $596, and for your 4-bedrooms, $666,994. That's the average sales price in the last 6 months for each oceanfront bedroom type. Now, your average down payment. So in this instance, you're not putting that full purchase price into the deal. You're only putting the down payment that you're paying on the loan in the deal, assuming that you finance. And most of our investors do finance. Now, your average down payment for a 1-bedroom at 25% is $51,250. For a 2-bedroom, $92,336. For a 3-bedroom, $594,000, $596. And for a, excuse me, I'm reading the wrong line. Guys, let's try that again. Now, your average down payment for a 1-bedroom was $51,250. For a 2-bedroom, $92,336. For a 3-bedroom, $148,649, and for a 4-bedroom, $166,749. Now, your cash on cash return is calculated by taking the profit that you get out of the deal and dividing it by the money that you have in the deal. Now, you only have your down payment in the deal. That's the cash that's coming out of your pocket, not the full purchase price. So we're going to take that profit and we're going to divide it into, excuse me, I got people driving by. You're going to take that profit and you're going to divide it into the down payment that you're coming out of pocket for to get into this deal. So we can see here the cash on cash return for a 1-bedroom is 23%. For a 2-bedroom is 18%. For a 3-bedroom is 17%. And then for a 4-bedroom is 24%. Now, you also have to take into account your average appreciation. And the reason why we want to take into account appreciation is because we're concerned with two major risk factors between buying smaller oceanfront condos and larger oceanfront condos. Those two risk factors are competition and appreciation. We don't want to take a risk on the appreciation on a deal. We want to get into a deal that's going to appreciate the most over the lifetime of the investment. Additionally, we don't want to buy an oceanfront condo where there's a ton of competition, which is in the smaller, low end of the market. So we always take those two factors into consideration for first-time investors when purchasing an oceanfront condo, because we don't want to put them in the fiercest fight, and we want to give them as much hedge or protection, as much upside as possible in the investment. That's going to be in the larger oceanfront condos that appreciate well. Now, your typical appreciation that we see on a 1-bedroom is $89,577. On a 2-bedroom is $147,997. For a 3-bedroom is $251,181, and for a 4-bedroom is $196,807. Now that's average appreciation. Now, let's cover my notes on this because it's crucial. Your average purchase price is based on the last 6 months of oceanfront units. Your operating expenses do include your principal and interest payment to your loan. Your cash on cash presented here is general, and I would not make an investment decision on it alone. In other words, this is all based off of averages, guys. This is a general idea, a rule of thumb of how the market is in general. But the reason why you hire a solid and professional broker is to tell you where the best deals are. And those best deals are generally the exceptions to the rules. What I typically see is the solid, excellent 3-bedroom units are appreciating well over $300,000, as where the 1-bedroom units are only appreciating around $100,000, if that. So while this is a rule of thumb that you could use, when you hire a broker like me, I'm going to tell you where the best deals are that are the exceptions to the rules so that way you make the best investments. So I would not use this to make my investment decision upon. I would use this for a surface level or general understanding. You know, it's kind of like this. The law of gravity holds true, right? We all know the law of gravity works, except for the law of aerodynamics holds true and is a superior truth to the law of gravity. So on the surface, gravity is a good rule of thumb to inform you. Yes, don't step off of a second-story ledge, you will fall. At the same token, if you want to get to China, you're probably going to want to take an airplane. And in that instance, yes, we definitely want to rely on the law of aerodynamics, which trumps the law of gravity. All that being said, it's the same here. While this is a general understanding, and it does hold true for cash-on-cash return, it is a general rule of thumb for our market. The law of aerodynamics is me stepping in going, hey, I know exactly where you can get, where oceanfront condos are appreciating over $300,000. So it's going to trump this general understanding of cash-on-cash return for our market. Now, let's keep rolling. A solid broker finds you the exceptions to the rules. This is how you make savvy investments and beat the market for sure. The best cash-on-cash return with the lowest risk is 3 to 4 bedroom units between $400,000 and $600,000. I see it all the time. I help investors do it all the time. Why cash-on-cash cannot be used as the standalone metric for Myrtle Beach Oceanfront condo investing? It's very simple. Number one, it does not factor in appreciation, which is the bulk of the money that you're making on oceanfront condo investing. So yes, make sure that you're using cash-on-cash return to get the best leverage in the deal. For sure, you want to make sure your money is making as much money as possible. Yes. At the same token, don't do it at the expense of appreciation, because you're making, $200,000, $300,000 in appreciation. You don't want to give that up just so that you can say you got a 14% cash-on-cash return. Come on now. And again, it's going to depend. Additionally, it's going to depend on what's more important to you. The cash-on-cash return is a 1-year snapshot of annual profits, as where the appreciation is the long-term return on the investment. So, or at least a large part of it. So, what's more important to you? Making annual profits? Well, then you're going to want a really high cash-on-cash return. But I'm probably not going to allow the cash-on-cash return that I get on a deal to trump how much appreciation I can make on the deal on the back end. Because while I'm collecting, let's just say $30,000 profit every year on my deal while I own it over the course, let's say I'm going to own it if I owned it for 10 years, that's $300,000. If I owned it for 5 years, that's $150,000. If my unit appreciates $300,000 in 5 years, what's more important? The appreciation on the back end of the deal, because it's making me more money. So you got to kind of work through all these things, and that's why you hire a solid and professional broker to run this kind of investment analysis for you. Now, number 2 says, why cash-on-cash cannot be used as the standalone metric for Myrtle Beach Oceanfront condo investing. Really simple, guys. It doesn't account for the tax benefits either. You can write off the interest payments on your investment. You can also get depreciation on your investment. You can also do a cost segregation study on your on your investment, which could be yielding you, like Yvonne, she bought a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom. She got a $34,000 tax return. Guys, you can't rule all these other factors out at the expense of cash-on-cash return. It's just not that important. You need a multi-level analysis that looks at the investment from different vantage points. It's that simple, guys. Now, 3, highly sensitive to financing. A high cash-on-cash doesn't always mean the property is good. It might just reflect aggressive leverage, which increases risk. And you got to watch out for that, guys. Yes, you can have a great cash-on-cash or return on a property, but there are other risk factors, like how much competition you're competing against or how much appreciation you're getting on this deal, for sure. Now, number 4, it ignores operating risk and expenses. It's that simple, guys. There are going to be operating risk in the deal. Are the operating risk more important to pay attention to than how much leverage, how well you're using your leverage in the deal? That's for you to decide. In my opinion, yes. You want to dig into those nuts and bolts. Number 5, it misses the full picture of the return, which includes appreciation, tax strategy, risk, and long-term equity growth. I believe you should invest in oceanfront condos in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, because this is the fastest growing area out of the 150 most populated areas in the entire United States for the last 3 years in a row, according to U.S. News and World Report. This helps to insulate our market from many of the ups and downs that the rest of our nation's real estate market experiences. This can help you have a more stable rental property. I believe you should invest in oceanfront condos in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, because they have a tremendous upside when compared to money market accounts and the stock market, due to the appreciation they earn and the potential of higher annual yields through their gross rental income when compared to these other investments. Money market accounts and the stock market don't have the upside of added appreciation. I believe you should invest in oceanfront condos in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, because while our prices have risen and have held their value, we're also much cheaper than other places like Florida. Where else can you go and find an oceanfront condo for as little as $100,000? If you're getting into the real estate game or expanding your current portfolio, the bang for your buck is sitting right on the Myrtle Beach, South Carolina oceanfront. Guys, there is no way around it. You have to look at any investment from multiple viewpoints and multiple vantage points. You cannot just go, well, the cash on this property is 14% and the cash on this other property is 21%. I want to buy the one with the cash on cash at 21%. Well, it's kind of a shallow investment analysis. It's a 1-year snapshot of how well your leverage is doing, yes. But what about the tax implications for, on your taxes that you're going to be filing at the end of the year? What about the amount of appreciation that you're going to make by holding this for the next 7 years? What about, the risk in it? Am I buying in a place in the market where there's a lot of competition, or am I buying in a place where there's not so much competition? That's definitely a factor. All these things are factors, and all of these things must be considered. You cannot exalt one financial metric over the other. You have to look at them cumulatively and comprehensively so that you make a sound investment decision. And that's what a solid and professional broker like myself is going to help you do. I believe you should invest in oceanfront condos in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, because you can enjoy and increase the passive income of your oceanfront condo through the 20 to 22 million tourists that visit the #2 vacation destination on the East Coast each year. Not only can you enjoy the equity paid for by visiting tourists, but you can also anticipate the over 100% appreciation experience at many of the oceanfront resorts in our market during the recent decade. I believe you should invest in oceanfront condos in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, because you can depreciate them, reducing your overall tax burden, keeping more money for you and your loved ones, and ensuring unnecessary taxes aren't paid. I get calls and emails every day from investors just like you looking to make their move into the Myrtle Beach market. They want to invest in short-term vacation rental properties. They want to invest in oceanfront condos. They want to know where the best deals are in our market. Well, guys, you're talking to the right person. 843-360-1737. I'm going to help you put your hands on the best deals in our market. If you're a first-time investor or a seasoned investor, if you're 1 year, 6 months, 3 years out, I don't care where you are in the investing process, pick up the phone, give me a call, send me an email, shoot me a text message, and let one of the many stories on our channel be one of your stories.